My name is Jeff Bean, and I am the collections manager for herpetology at the North Carolina State Museum of Natural Sciences in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm interested in all living things. Snakes are just one of many things, and every living thing is connected, but snakes are a personal favorite. I like the underdogs, and snakes are hated and feared by a lot of people, and so I stick up for them. I have personally interacted with countless snakes, thousands, as many as I possibly could. Could I have too many interactions with snakes? Probably not, unless maybe a venomous snake bit me. That might be one interaction too many. Or if someone dropped a helicopter load of 10,000 snakes on my head, that I might be killed by that. But other than that, no. I never get tired of seeing or encountering snakes. Well, I love all snakes and appreciate and admire and respect them all, but I developed a particular interest in the Southern Hognose snake many years ago when no one seemed to know anything about them or have any real interest in them. So I started trying to gather information on them and learn about them, and now everybody and his brother wants to see one because they were once a common species and they've become pretty rare, and now all the young field herpers want to come and find them and post their pictures on Facebook and Instagram and say, look what I found. But the Southern Hognose snake is probably one of the rarest and most threatened snakes in North America. They contribute the same thing other species contribute. They eat certain species and they are eaten by certain species. They're part of a system that's millions of years old. They cycle nutrients through the system in a unique way, just like every other species you can name. A lot of other snakes eat Southern Hognose snakes. Red-shouldered hawks eat them, red-tailed hawks eat them. They're a predator and they're a food source. Sinus basically means nose or snout. It's the same root word as sinus if you have a sinus infection. I tell people I have a sinus infection. Well, hognose snakes are called that because their nose somewhat resembles a pig's nose if you use your imagination. Their rostral scale is pointed and turned up, sort of like a spade, and they use that for burrowing. They burrow into the sandy soil and spend a lot of time there, and they also dig for their primary food. To gather as much information as we could on this species, where it occurred, what its status was, what it eats, how it spends its time. Primarily we've done road searches for them. They're very secretive snakes and they spend most of their time underground. But when they do move on the surface, they're very cryptic. They're very, very difficult to find just walking around looking at the ground. We have also radio tracked a few individuals. We've implanted small radio transmitters in the coelomic cavity of the snakes and followed them around. Southern hognose snakes, at least in North Carolina, are usually the same sort of tan or grayish color with dark brown blotches, and they're pretty easily recognized by their upturned snout. They're also a very heavy-bodied snake and small and very slow moving. These hatchlings are, maybe 6 or 7 inches when they first hatch, and then an adult, a big adult, might be, 23, 24 inches. Here's a jar of adults, and you can see they're fairly small snakes. Southern hognose snakes specialize on eating the eastern spadefoot toad. They'll also eat a few other things. The juveniles in particular are known to eat 6-line race runners, which are a very, very fast lizard. They're our fastest terrestrial reptile, which is ironic because the Southern hognose snake is one of our slowest terrestrial reptiles. They don't run them down, they dig them out of the ground and catch them in their burrows early in the morning when it's cool. Well, hognose snakes in general are also known for their behavior. They have some pretty fantastic defensive behavior against predators. They're sometimes known as the drama queens of the snake world. When frightened, they'll flatten their neck out and hiss very loudly and puff up their body. Some people call them spreading adders or spread heads or Carolina cobras. If that doesn't work, they will go into a kind of almost like an epileptic seizure. It's called thanatosis. It's a kind of a shock, and they'll roll over on their back, open their mouth, let their tongue hang out. They basically play dead. Their first reaction usually is to freeze and rely on their superb camouflage. Hognose snakes are not dangerous at all to humans or domestic animals or anything like that. They have a saliva that has some toxins in it for their prey, but it's certainly no threat to humans. In 2014, I and a few others published a paper on the natural history of the Southern Hognose snake in the journal Copia, which is now called the Journal of Ichthyology and Herpetology. And since then, we've continued our monitoring efforts for this species, and we're finding them in fewer and fewer places all the time, every year, and in lower numbers. Their populations seem to have really been dropping since about 2014. It's lost a tremendous amount of ground. It's a longleaf pine specialist, and 97% of the longleaf pine is gone. Apparently gone from Alabama and Mississippi, where it used to occur. It's now found just in the Carolinas, Florida, and Georgia. The remainder of their habitat is fragmented by roads, and they're very slow-moving snakes, so they're killed on roads quite often. About 85% of all those that I've ever seen have been road kills. They've really declined precipitously in places where fire ants are prevalent, so that may be a big factor. There might be diseases involved that we don't know about. People do collect them for the pet trade illegally, and that may be a factor too, but just road mortality and fragmentation of their habitat in the places where it does occur, those seem to be the big threats. So what could be done to protect the Southern Hognose snake? It's all about habitat. For every species out there, they have to have a place to live. They've got to have habitat. The only way to protect them really is to set aside enough habitat and take away the things in the habitat that are a threat to them, like busy roads cutting right through the middle of it, that sort of thing. And that's a difficult thing to do. Sometimes I think my only purpose here on the earth is to document what we've lost and what we're continuing to lose. So if that's all I can do, that's what I'll continue to do. I've known people who were just absolutely terrified of snakes, and over time I or someone else could get them to love snakes and appreciate them. Many people see snakes as mean, aggressive, psychotic, sociopathic, things that are out to get humans, and they're just not. All they want to do is survive. They want nothing to do with humans. They want to be left alone. Snakes can feel pain and fear, and they can get too cold or too hot just like we can. They deal with many of the same dangers that we do. Start with a snake that's not very threatening looking. To me, Southern Hognose snakes look like they have a smile on their face all the time. Their little upturned nose may be a good snake to start with to overcome fear.